I was wired after that last catering run. Happens sometimes. The caffeine overload hits harder when the job runs late, especially when I haven't eaten anything since noon. I'd slam 2 Red Bulls during cleanup just to keep myself upright for the drive back. My hands were still jittery on the wheel, and there was no way I'd be sleeping anytime soon. Home didn't feel like the next move. The idea of walking into my empty apartment, just to toss and turn for 3 hours, didn't sit right with me. I needed something to bring me down a notch. Something warm, something greasy. I'd been through this loop before. There's a 24-hour Denny's just past Ridgewood Heights that I used to hit back when I was doing gigs closer to the city. Not amazing food, but it was always open. Always lit up like a gas station in the desert. I hadn't been there in a while, not since the shift started taking me farther north. But that night it called to me, familiar booths, faint smell of burnt coffee, probably the same night manager too. It was comfort food by association more than anything. I figured I'd swing by, sit in the back corner like I used to, kill the buzz, then head home and pass out for 12 hours. I wasn't expecting anything weird, just pancakes, maybe some hash browns, and 10 minutes to shut my brain off. But even pulling into the parking lot, something already felt off. Not loud or dramatic, just off. Like I'd stepped back into a place that hadn't been waiting for me. I was halfway through the drive-through lane, just waiting on my food, staring blankly at the glowing menu board like it might offer me something new. It was one of those weird, quiet moments where time seems to slow down. No music, no talking, just the low hum of my car and the occasional crackle from the speaker box. I wasn't even hungry anymore, really, just running on habit. That's when I noticed the Chrysler. It was this old, beat-up model, early 2000s maybe, hard to tell in the dark. It wasn't parked near the building like the rest of us. It was tucked way back, over in the far corner of the lot where the lights barely reached. The engine was still running, steady and low, but there wasn't any movement, just stillness. The kind that doesn't make sense when someone's alone in a car with the motor going. All the windows were tinted pitch black, like aftermarket dark. Too dark. I couldn't see a thing inside, not even the faintest outline. And the longer I looked at it, the more it started to feel like it was looking back. I know that sounds ridiculous. I couldn't see anything, but that's what got under my skin, that heavy, locked-in stillness. Whoever was in there, if anyone was in there, they weren't eating, they weren't on their phone, they weren't even adjusting the radio, they were just sitting there, like they were watching something, or waiting for something. I tried to tell myself it was nothing, probably someone waiting on a friend, or just needing to be alone, but I couldn't shake the feeling that if I kept staring at that car long enough, something would happen, and I wouldn't like what it was. I don't know why, but I didn't feel like heading straight home. I told myself it was just to eat in peace. Somewhere quiet, but maybe I was stalling. Maybe something about that car back in the lot had lodged itself deeper in my brain than I wanted to admit. Either way, I took a detour. There's this old overlook out past Dawson Preserve. Locals call it Pine Brook. I hadn't been out there in years. Not since high school, probably. It used to be one of those spots where people would sneak out late, drink warm beer, listen to bad music, and pretend like they weren't scared of the dark. I remembered it being peaceful in that weird kind of way that only forgotten places can be. It's technically part of a nature trail now. The whole path is gated off after dark, but that never stopped anyone before. I knew the back way in, the service road off Merritt, that wrapped around and opened up at the ridge. You'd miss it completely if you weren't looking for it. When I pulled in, the lot was empty, not even a ranger's truck. Just gravel crunching under my tires and a dim wash of moonlight spilling through the trees. I parked right at the edge, where the ground sloped down into the valley and the city lights shimmered faintly in the distance. It was quiet, too quiet, but I told myself that's what I wanted. I killed the engine, cracked the window a little, unwrapped my sandwich, and just sat there, looking out, trying not to think too hard, trying not to glance back in the mirror, trying not to feel like something had followed me out here, because that would have been crazy, right? I had barely unwrapped my sandwich when I caught the glow of headlights breaking through the tree line. I thought maybe it was just some other night owl, maybe a couple looking for a quiet spot. Happens sometimes. But as the car pulled closer, rolling slow across the gravel, I recognized it immediately. Same Chrysler, same dull blue paint, same fogged up headlights. Same way it didn't quite park so much as settle, just far enough away not to be obvious, but close enough that it wasn't random. It didn't pull into a marked spot or face the view like a normal person would. It just stopped at this weird angle, half in the shadows, engine still humming low. My first instinct was to shrug it off. Maybe they just happened to head the same way, right? Coincidences happen, but it didn't sit right. The way they had waited back at the Denny's lot, not ordering food, not moving, just idling in the dark. And now this? I kept eating, but slower, more distracted, my hand barely registering what I was doing. I could feel that tight itch building in my chest again, like something was watching me, or measuring me, almost. I glanced in my side mirror a few times, hoping to catch movement, a door opening, someone stepping out. Nothing, just that idling engine and a faint red glow from their taillights, pulsing like a heartbeat through the trees. I told myself not to panic, told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe they were just tired, maybe they were just lost. But deep down I already knew that wasn't it. They followed me. That much I couldn't explain away. I didn't want to be that guy. The one who jumps at shadows and convinces himself he's in a thriller. But something about the way that car was just there. It started to get under my skin in a way I couldn't shake. I was tired, sure, wired and drained all at once. That weird state where your thoughts start looping and logic gets foggy. Still, I figured I'd call Marcus. He lives close, maybe 15 minutes out. We've crashed at each other's places after parties or late shifts, no big deal. I didn't even think through what I was gonna say. I just didn't want to be sitting up there alone anymore, with that car a few yards away like some animal waiting for the right moment to lunge. He picked up on the second ring, voice all groggy and confused. I told him I was up near Pinebrook, that overlooked spot near Dawson. I said it like I just happened to be there, like it wasn't a big deal. I don't even think I gave him a reason. He said okay, slow and groaning, but he said he'd come. That was enough. I kept glancing toward the Chrysler, trying not to make it obvious. It still hadn't moved. No doors opened, no one stepped out, just that low rumble of the engine, and the occasional flicker of movement behind its windshield. Probably just my eyes playing tricks. I told myself everything was fine, but I still locked the doors, still kept the engine running, just in case. And I remember thinking, if this really is nothing, why do I feel like I've already crossed a line I can't come back from? When Marcus pulled up, I almost felt stupid for calling him. The car was still there, sure, but it hadn't done anything, just idled. Still, I was glad he came. He parked a little ways off and walked over like it was nothing. I didn't bring up the Chrysler at first. Didn't want to sound paranoid. We figured since we were already out there, we might as well walk up the trail. That was the whole reason I drove out here, right? Peace and quiet, clear my head. Marcus shrugged and said, sure, let's go. He didn't seem weirded out. That made me feel a little better. The path was familiar but strange in that nighttime way. Everything sharp-edged and darker than it should have been. The air felt colder than I remembered. And not just temperature-wise. There was something heavy in it. Like the space around us wasn't quite empty. Then we saw them, 3 guys just there, not walking toward us, not stumbling out like they got lost. Just standing, already halfway out of the trees, like they'd been watching and decided now was the time to show up. They weren't aggressive or anything. One of them held something out, gum or cigarettes, I couldn't even tell. The kind of weird casual gesture meant to lower your guard, like we were just all hanging out in the woods at 3 a.m. for no reason. I said something stupid. I brought up Denny's. Told them I thought I saw them there earlier, near the drive-thru. As soon as the words left my mouth, I regretted it. The mood dropped. Not subtly, like a trapdoor just opened beneath us. They didn't say anything, didn't nod or laugh, just stood there, watching. I felt Marcus glance at me, but neither of us said a word. Something had changed, and I knew it was because of what I said. I kept thinking, why did I open my mouth? We were about to head back. No words, no plan, just that silent, mutual agreement you make when something doesn't feel right anymore. Marcus had started turning when he nudged me, barely noticeable. His shoulder brushed mine like a signal. I followed his eyes. There was another guy. He wasn't with the other three. Or maybe he was. I don't know, he was off trail. Maybe 20 feet into the tree line. Partially obscured but not hiding. Not really, just standing there. Watching. At first I didn't even register what I was looking at. Just another figure in the dark. But then I saw what he was holding. Long. Dark. Could have been a bat. Or a pipe. Or worse. It caught a sliver of light from somewhere. And my stomach dropped. He realized we saw him. That's when he moved. No hesitation. Just straight toward us. Fast. Too fast. And that's when the other three snapped out of their weird stillness and came at us too. No more casual gestures. No more fake calm. It was like they'd been waiting for a trigger. I didn't think. I just ran. I don't remember what I shouted. Or if I even did. Just the sound of boots pounding gravel. Twigs snapping underfoot. I know Marcus was right behind me. I could hear his breathing, ragged and panicked, just as wrecked as mine. The trees blurred past. Every shadow looked like another figure waiting. I don't know how we made it back to the cars. It felt like we skipped time, like our brains refused to record the full picture. 1 minute we were bolting through the woods. The next we were slamming doors and flooring it out of there. I didn't breathe right until we hit the lights on Marcus's street. Even then I wasn't sure we were really safe. Still not sure. I've always found something calming about the stillness that settles over the land after dark. Out here in the middle of nowhere, it's a silence you can feel pressing in from all sides. No neighbors, no traffic, just the creak of the trees when the wind moves through them and the occasional rustle of something small making its way across the grass. It used to make me feel peaceful. These days, I think I just need the distraction. Ever since Elaine passed, the nights have felt longer than they should. I don't sleep much anymore. I guess I got used to waking up to check on her, and after she was gone, that habit never quite left me. The house is too damn big now, but I never had the heart to downsize. Everything's still where it always was. Her coat's in the front closet, the ceramic mugs she liked in the kitchen cabinet, untouched. I don't even open the bedroom door upstairs. Haven't in years. My workshop's out back, about 50 yards from the house. I still spend most of my day out there welding small jobs for the county or fixing busted machinery for the ranchers who stop by. It gives me purpose. Keeps my hands busy. And then there's Murphy. He's old now, just like me. But he still gets up when I grab the flashlight and head out for our nightly loop around the property. It's a quiet ritual. Him at my side, the sky stretched out above us. The same path every night. Nothing ever changes. At least, that's what I thought. It was just like any other evening. Same route, same flashlight beam cutting across the dirt path. Murphy trotting beside me with that soft huff in his breath. He gets when it's cool out. I remember thinking it was quieter than usual, even for out here. No crickets, no wind. Just me, the dog, and the sound of gravel shifting under my boots. I was on the return stretch, almost back to the house, when something made me look up. It wasn't a sound, more like a flicker of movement. Instinct, maybe. My eyes went to the second-story window, the one above the porch, the one that looks out from what used to be our bedroom. I hadn't looked at that window in a long time. Didn't need to. That room had been closed off since the week after the funeral. I never even touched the doorknob. So when I saw something shift behind the curtain, just a subtle motion like someone brushing past it, I froze. I don't even know how long I stood there. Could have been a minute, could have been 10. Murphy didn't bark. He just looked up at me, head tilted, waiting. I told myself I imagined it, that it was the wind, or maybe a reflection, but I didn't believe it. I went inside, straight up the stairs, past all the pictures, that creaking third step still loose like always. The bedroom door was shut, same as it had been for years. When I opened it, everything was exactly how I'd left it. Dusty, still, unchanged, and yet I couldn't shake it, that feeling like something had been there. just seconds before I arrived. Things didn't go back to normal after that night. Not really. I tried to make them, forced myself to stick to the routine. Same dinner, same walk, same cup of coffee before bed, even if I never drank more than 2 sips. But something had shifted. The silence in the house didn't feel restful anymore. It felt aware, like it was waiting for something. Murphy started acting strange too, restless at night, pacing in tight little circles before finally settling near the bedroom door instead of his usual spot by the furnace. Sometimes he'd just stare up at the ceiling, ears stiff like he was hearing something I couldn't. I'd snap my fingers to get his attention, and he'd flinch like I'd pulled him out of somewhere far away. Then came the noises. It started small, just soft creaks from the upstairs hallway, like floorboards shifting under slow, deliberate weight. I told myself it was the wood contracting in the cool night air. That's the kind of thing you say to yourself when you're trying not to spiral. But it kept happening. Sometimes a pattern, like footsteps pacing. Sometimes something softer, like cloth dragging over wood, and then the lights. I'd come downstairs in the morning to find the kitchen lit up like I'd just walked out of it. First time, I figured I'd forgotten. Second time, I wasn't so sure. By the third, I knew I'd turned them off. I always do. It's habit, built into my bones. Still, I tried to brush it off, told myself stress can play tricks, told myself I was tired, but part of me, deep down, knew something wasn't right, and it wasn't going away. I didn't go into town much anymore, just when I had to. Supplies, gas, maybe some dog food if Murphy was running low. That day it was wire brushes and a fresh propane tank for the torch. I went to the same hardware place I'd been going to for decades. Same faded walls, same busted soda machine humming in the corner. Familiar, comfortable. The guy behind the counter was young, newer, one of those who always tries to make conversation even when you're clearly not in the mood. I let him talk. Easier that way. I was half listening, nodding along while he rang things up, until something he said snagged in my brain and wouldn't let go. He said he'd seen someone near my truck earlier that week. Just mentioned it like it was nothing. Said she looked like she might have been with me, maybe waiting inside while I was shopping or grabbing a coffee. Said she didn't say anything, just stood real still by the passenger side, looking toward the shop window. I didn't correct him. Didn't say a word. Just paid and got back in my truck like everything was fine. But the whole way home I couldn't stop running it through my head. There was no woman with me. There hasn't been for years. It wasn't just the noises in the house anymore. Wasn't just me catching glimpses in dark windows. Someone else had seen her. Seen something. That changed things. Why was she near my truck? How long had she been following me? And why didn't I notice? I hadn't gone into that room since the week I packed it up, after the service, after the casserole stopped showing up, after people stopped calling to check in. I boxed everything up in one long afternoon, folded each shirt, wrapped up the trinkets on the dresser, tucked the photos into storage bins. Then I shut the door and left it that way. Felt like the only way to keep moving forward, or at least pretend to. I don't even remember why I opened it that night. Maybe I thought facing it would help me sleep. Maybe I was tired of being afraid of a door in my own house. But the second I stepped in, I knew something was off. Her clothes, Elaine's, were everywhere. Not in boxes, not folded, just scattered. Dresses draped over the chair, scarves hanging from the corner of the bed frame, blouses, socks, the old nightgown she used to wear when it got cold. All of it laid out like someone had gone through it slowly, piece by piece, like they'd been studying it. I stood there for a second, trying to process what I was seeing, and that's when I noticed her. A figure in the doorway, just outside the room, watching me, not Elaine. That part registered immediately. Too short, too still. Something about her posture was off, like she wasn't expecting me to be there. Like I'd interrupted something. I stepped forward without thinking, and she turned, fast, bolted down the hall and took the stairs 2 at a time. I chased her out the front door, but by the time I made it to the porch, she was gone, just vanished into the night. No tire tracks, no footprints, just cold air and silence, and Murphy whining at the door behind me. I don't think I slept more than an hour at a time after that night. Couldn't, not with the way the house started feeling. Every corner seemed darker, every sound felt like it was aimed at me. I kept the rifle beside the bed, not loaded, not at first, but close enough that I could reach it without thinking. I told myself it was just precaution. Just until I figured things out, but there was nothing to figure out. Not really. That's the part that gets under your skin. There was no confrontation, no explanation, no reason, just moments. Glimpses, things slightly out of place. Murphy wouldn't leave the bedroom at night, just curled up by the door like he was guarding it, ears twitching at every creak, and I started checking things obsessively. Locks, windows, the attic hatch, even the hinges on the back fence, over and over. Sometimes I'd forget I'd already done it. Sometimes I'd find something different, barely, but enough. A chair moved a little, a window opened by an inch. Dust shifted in a way that didn't line up with how I'd left it. I kept telling myself it was stress, that maybe I was falling into some kind of loop, that people my age sometimes started seeing things, thinking things that weren't quite there, that maybe I was reading too much into a few odd moments and spinning a story out of it. But that didn't explain how Elaine's clothes ended up back in that room. I hadn't touched them in years, and it sure didn't explain why Murphy kept staring at the ceiling like he was waiting for something to come down through it. I was just sitting there, not doing anything special, just staring at the television without really watching. Murphy curled up on the floor beside me like always. It had been a quiet night, or maybe I was too tired to notice the creaks anymore. I'd stopped reacting to every little thing. At some point, you burn out even on fear. But then I looked toward the window. She was there, not running, not lurking in the corners, just standing in the yard like she'd been there the whole time, like she'd never left. Her face was shadowed, but I knew it was her. Same size, same posture, same eerie stillness. And she wasn't moving, just staring straight through the glass like she could see every thought running through my head. I didn't even think. My hand went to the rifle on instinct. I was outside in seconds, heart pounding. Hard enough I could feel it in my throat. I fired a few warning shots into the air, not to hit her, just to make noise, to shatter whatever this was supposed to be. She didn't flinch at first, just kept standing there. Then she turned and slipped into the tree line like before. No panic, no urgency, like she'd already gotten what she came for. That's what got to me. That calm, that lack of fear. It felt different this time, like she wanted me to see her, like it wasn't a mistake anymore, like maybe it never was. I haven't seen her since, but I keep waiting, and Murphy still won't sleep anywhere but by the door. I don't think this is something that just ends. I don't remember every detail. It's been a while, and some things blur over time. Faces, weather, who said what. But certain pieces never fade. I grew up in Maple Glen, Pennsylvania. If you've never heard of it, you're not missing much. It's the kind of place where nothing ever really happens, where boredom doesn't just creep in, it settles, stays. Back in high school, we had to get creative just to feel something. A lot of nights were spent driving around aimlessly, hoping to stumble onto something interesting. Eventually, that turned into a kind of game, finding abandoned buildings, slipping inside, poking around where we didn't belong. I can't say why it hooked me the way it did. Maybe it was the quiet. Maybe it was the weird sense that time stopped in those places, like the world forgot about them. I guess we wanted to see what the world had tried to bury. We went through phases, old barns, gutted houses, even a burned-down retirement center. But there was one spot we kept going back to, an old church on the edge of Fox Hollow, 312 Weaver Street. I don't know why I still remember the address. I couldn't tell you where half my old textbooks ended up, but that number is lodged in my brain like a splinter, maybe because it felt different from the others. Colder, more intact, somehow, like it didn't want to be forgotten. We didn't think much of it back then, just another place to kill time. I've learned since then that some places don't want you there, not because they're haunted or cursed or anything like that. Sometimes, it's just because someone else hasn't finished with them yet. It was one of those autumn nights where the cold actually feels good on your face. The kind of air that snaps you into focus, makes everything seem sharper, like your eyes are adjusting to the dark in a way they usually don't. We'd done this before, probably more times than we should have. That night wasn't supposed to be different. There were 6 of us: me, Rowan, Taylor, Jace, Vic, and Harper. Same crew, same plan. We parked a couple blocks away to avoid attention and walked the rest, laughing about something stupid someone said earlier. The church stood there like it always did, quiet, tucked behind that rusted chain-link fence, pretending not to care we were coming back. Climbing the fence was second nature by then. Someone had even twisted part of it down a while ago, like the place itself had finally started letting us in. The window on the west side, half shattered, boarded loosely, was still our way in. I remember the way the boards creaked when we pushed them aside, the same dull groan every time. Inside, the air was cold in a way the outside wasn't, like it had been sealed in place, untouched. Nothing had changed. Dirt floor where wood should have been. Just a wide, hollow space in the center, sagging in on itself, like the church's heart had been dug out and left open. That pit in the middle always made me feel off, too neat, too centered. The stairs leading down were rough concrete, uneven and cracked in spots, but we'd been down them before, many times. So we went down again, like always, like idiots. And maybe that's the only reason we made it as far as we did, because we weren't expecting anything at all. The basement had 3 rooms. Always had. I never figured out why only one of them had a door. It was like someone started building it all out and then just... The other 2 had open frames, like mouths missing their teeth, and there was something weird about how symmetrical it all felt down there. Too geometric for a place that was supposed to be forgotten. We always went into the big room first. It was the most comfortable, if you could call it that. Cracked linoleum and scattered junk, old folding chairs, fragments of shelving, some weird metal parts that looked like they used to be something important. There was still that couch someone had dragged down years ago probably. Moldy, shredded open at one side, the springs clawing their way out like ribs. It leaned to one side now, sagging more than before. We weren't wild about anything that night. Just a few drinks passed around, half a speaker playing bad reception from someone's phone. The kind of scene that made it feel like you could own a place like that, like claiming some forgotten corner of the world for yourself, even if just for an hour. Jace couldn't handle his drink, as usual. He kept making loud jokes, laughing too much. I must have hushed him 10 times. Something about that place always made me want to stay quiet, like it had rules we weren't supposed to break. Still, it helped being in a group. 6 people is enough to shake off the edges of a place like that. Strength in numbers. That's the saying, right? I told myself that for a long time. I don't know if I believe it anymore. It didn't build up. There wasn't a creak or a shuffle or anything leading into it. Just a sharp, sudden crack, like the whole building snapped awake. The kind of sound that doesn't give you a second to process. Just slams through your chest before your brain can catch up. We all jumped. I don't care how many times we'd been down there, or how much we pretended we weren't scared. That noise cut through all of it. I know I flinched. I don't remember if I said anything. Probably not. I think we were all just staring. It was the door, the only actual door in the whole basement, the one in the back room, the one none of us ever really bothered with. And the thing is, none of us were near it, not even close. That's what messed with me. Not the slam itself, but the emptiness around it. Like the room had just made a decision without us. Rowan was the first to bolt. Taylor and Jace followed without a word, like the choice had already been made for them. I watched them run, their shoes scraping on the concrete stairs, fading fast. That left the 3 of us, me, Vic, and Harper. We stood there frozen for a second, like maybe if we didn't move, the moment wouldn't get any worse. None of us said anything. I think we were all hoping someone else would make the call to leave, so we wouldn't have to be the one to say it out loud. But for whatever reason, we stayed. Not out of bravery. I don't think it was that. I don't even know what I was waiting for. Maybe I thought if we waited long enough, the door would open again. After the slam, everything went quiet in a way that didn't feel normal. Not just the usual kind of silence you get in abandoned places, it was heavier than that. Pressurized. Like the whole basement was waiting for us to move first. I remember thinking maybe the others had set something off when they ran, some weird draft or shift in air pressure. Old buildings groan and shift, that's what we always told ourselves. But it didn't feel like that this time. Then something rang. Not one of our phones. I was sure of that right away. It was some generic ringtone, the kind you'd hear in ads or movies. Too clean, too default. It echoed wrong in the space, sharp and hollow. Harper looked at me, and I could tell she was thinking the same thing. What the hell is that? We didn't say anything, just followed the sound. It was coming from one of the smaller rooms, the one without a door. The ringtone cut off before we got all the way in, like it knew we were getting close. I felt my stomach drop a little when I saw it. This beat-up flip phone, half buried in the dirt, like someone had tossed it aside years ago. The plastic was scuffed and brittle looking. The battery was out, just sitting next to it. No SIM card, no back cover. I nudged it with my shoe, and it didn't even light up. No power, no chance it should have been ringing. That was the first time I really felt it, that shift. Like maybe we weren't the only ones who'd come down here. Or worse, maybe someone else still was. And suddenly the idea that we'd been alone all those other times didn't feel like a given anymore. It felt like a question I wasn't sure I wanted answered. We didn't go right away. The three of us just stood there for a while, like maybe if we waited long enough the door would open on its own and we wouldn't have to be the ones to do it. Eventually though, Harper stepped forward, and the rest of us followed. I remember the way the door felt when we pushed it. Heavier than I expected, like it didn't want to move. Or maybe that was just in my head. The room inside was smaller than I thought it would be. No windows, barely enough space for the furniture that was still in there. The first thing I saw was a vanity. One of those old-fashioned ones, the kind with the tall mirror and little drawers. The mirror was cracked from one corner, and there were these streaks across it, reddish, smeared. At first I told myself it was just rust or old paint, something boring, something explainable. But it still looked wet. Shiny in spots, sticky in a way I didn't want to test. There was a photo resting on the edge of the vanity, black and white curled at the corners. A woman in a veil, standing stiff with a crooked smile that didn't reach her eyes. Her expression reminded me of a mannequin posed lifeless. The kind of photo that makes you feel like you're being watched even though the subject's not moving. I stepped back from it, not sure why I suddenly felt so off. That's when we heard it again, another sound. Not the door this time. It was coming from behind us, from the other room. The room we had just left. I don't remember moving. Just this jolt in my chest like I'd been dropped back into my body. I turned to Vic, then Harper, and we all had the same look, wide eyes, frozen, like maybe if we didn't breathe, the sound wouldn't happen again. But it did. That second noise, whatever it was, snapped whatever thread had been holding us there. None of us said a word. We didn't plan anything or exchange looks. We just moved. Grabbed what little we'd brought, climbed the stairs two at a time and got out. I remember my hands slipping a little on the top of the fence, like they were suddenly sweating despite the cold. My breathing was too loud in my ears, and I remember thinking how strange it was that we were all completely silent. Not one joke, not one shout, not even Jace's usual commentary. And he wasn't even with us by that point. Just the three of us, moving on instinct. When we hit the street, we didn't talk. We didn't even look at each other. We just stood there like we were waiting for something else to happen. For a few seconds, I thought maybe it wasn't over. I don't know what made me turn back. Habit, maybe, or something darker. Like the kind of curiosity you don't want to admit to having. I glanced up at the window we'd used to get in, the one we always used, and I swear there was a shape in it. A figure, still not moving. Just standing there, like it had been watching the whole time. I never said anything about it. I didn't want to be the one who brought it up. Part of me still hopes I imagined it. We never went back. Not as a group. I stayed in touch with some of them for a while, but it faded, like most high school friendships do. I did go back on my own. Years later, the building was gone by then, just an empty lot. Nothing left to prove it had even been there. I've tried to find out what it used to be. if there was ever anything unusual about that church or what it was before. But I've never found a thing. No articles, no history, nothing. Sometimes I wonder if that's the strangest part of all, like maybe we weren't supposed to be there, and maybe someone knew.